10 cities with severe homelessness in Canada. Did you know that over 235,000 people in Canada experience homelessness each year? This is the official figure reported by the government, but experts believe the actual number is much higher. Many people living on the streets are not counted in these statistics, from those sleeping in hidden corners of parks to families crammed into makeshift shelters. In reality, the true extent of the homelessness crisis in Canada may be far worse than what is officially reported. But here's something that may surprise you. Some of Canada's wealthiest and most well-known cities are facing out-of-control homelessness rates. Places like Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary, and Montreal, famous for their beautiful skylines, booming economies, and cultural landmarks, are grappling with a homelessness crisis that leaves thousands without shelter every night. Beneath the shiny surfaces of these cities, the homelessness crisis is escalating and becoming harder to manage. This is why we've decided to take you on a journey through 10 cities in Canada where homelessness has reached extreme levels. From the rough streets of Halifax to the freezing sidewalks of Edmonton, each city faces its own set of challenges: skyrocketing housing costs, mental health crises, and economic inequality. Despite many support networks, there are still far too many people struggling and falling through the cracks in the system. So, what is driving these cities into such a severe homelessness crisis? Why, despite having support measures in place, does the number of homeless individuals continue to rise? Follow this article, as each city offers insights into an increasingly urgent issue that requires immediate action. 10. Victoria, British Columbia. When people think of Victoria, many envision a beautiful coastal city famous for its historic architecture, lush gardens, and mild climate. However, beneath its charming exterior is a troubling reality. The homelessness crisis is growing and cannot be ignored. Despite being one of Canada's smaller cities, Victoria is facing severe homelessness, particularly in recent years. The problem isn't just about the numbers, it's about the lack of affordable housing. As more people move to Victoria, attracted by its lifestyle and milder weather compared to the rest of Canada, the cost of living has soared. Rental housing has become scarce, and even modest apartments are out of reach for many. With one of the highest housing costs in the country, low-income or fixed-income individuals have almost no options. The combination of high housing prices, a lack of mental health support, and drug addiction issues has created a perfect storm, pushing many people onto the streets. This is most evident in the tent cities, especially in Beacon Hill Park. While the city has made efforts to address homelessness by increasing shelter spaces and temporary housing projects, resources remain limited. Victoria may be a paradise for many, but for the homeless, it's a daily struggle to maintain dignity, shelter, and survival. 9. Halifax, Nova Scotia. Halifax, with its historic beauty and bustling waterfront, has long been a centre of Canada's Atlantic region. Known for the friendliness of its people and maritime culture, in recent years, Halifax has faced an unexpected issue: rising homelessness. Though this area rarely had to confront such a problem in the past, it is now seeing a significant increase in the number of homeless people. The main cause lies in the severe shortage of affordable housing. As the population grows, rental prices have skyrocketed, forcing many local residents out of the rental market. Tent cities have begun to appear in parks and public spaces as people seek shelter. While community organizations offer support, demand far exceeds the city's ability to provide. The homelessness crisis in Halifax is a reminder of the shortage of affordable housing, not just in large cities, but also in smaller urban centres. 8. Hamilton, Ontario. Hamilton, a city renowned for its steel industry and the resilience of its working-class population, is undergoing a challenging transformation. Once known for its affordable living costs, Hamilton is now facing skyrocketing real estate values and rising rental costs. As people from Toronto seek more affordable housing, Hamilton has become a prime destination, but this has led to intense gentrification. Many neighborhoods that were once affordable options for low-income individuals are now being overtaken by upscale condos and trendy coffee shops. As a result, long-time residents, particularly the most vulnerable, are being pushed out of their own communities. Homelessness in Hamilton has become a clear sign of societal change, with tent cities popping up along railway tracks and in parks. The rise of gentrification, coupled with a lack of affordable housing, has created a troubling reality for those without stable homes. Number 7. Ottawa, Ontario. Ottawa, Canada's capital, known for its government buildings and historical landmarks, might not be the first city you think of when it comes to homelessness. However, beneath the city's stable exterior, homelessness is on the rise. Tent cities have begun to appear along the Rideau River and in parks around the city, especially during the winter when temperatures can drop to dangerous levels. High rental prices, a shortage of affordable housing, and inadequate support services have left many without shelter. Even in a city where housing and welfare policies are made, thousands of people still find themselves living on the streets, just a short walk away from social services. The homelessness crisis in Ottawa serves as a reminder of this growing issue, even in a city built on stability and order. Number 6. Winnipeg, Manitoba. Winnipeg, known as the heart of Canada's prairies, is distinguished by its rich history, vibrant arts community, and strong sense of community spirit. However, for those facing homelessness, Winnipeg can become a harsh place to live, particularly when the brutal winter temperatures set in. With a combination of freezing weather, high poverty rates, and a shortage of affordable housing, Winnipeg has become one of the most challenging cities for the homeless in Canada. The homelessness crisis in Winnipeg is particularly evident. Walking through the downtown area, you'll see people huddling in bus stations, curling up in doorways, or seeking warmth in overcrowded emergency shelters. With the cold weather, surviving the winter becomes a daily battle, filled with the risks of frostbite, hypothermia, or even death. However, this is only part of the story. Winnipeg's economy has long struggled with high unemployment rates and low incomes, making poverty a vicious cycle that is hard to break. Indigenous people, who make up a large portion of the city's population, are particularly affected due to a history of systemic racism and a lack of access to resources. Many Indigenous residents are forced to leave their northern communities to seek services in the city, only to face a shortage of support and limited housing options. While Winnipeg has made efforts to reduce homelessness, including programs for Indigenous people and affordable housing initiatives, the demand still exceeds supply. In a city where temperatures can drop below 30 degrees Celsius, homelessness is not only a social issue, but also a matter of survival. Number 5. Edmonton, Alberta. Edmonton, a city known for its oil economy and vibrant festival scene, is a place of stark contrasts. From bustling downtown areas to vast river valley parks, Edmonton offers a lot to admire. However, as the city continues to grow, it is also facing an escalating homelessness crisis. Edmonton's harsh winters, with temperatures dropping below 40 degrees, present a serious challenge for those without stable shelter, creating a fight for warmth and safety. Homelessness in Edmonton shares many common factors with other cities: high rental prices, a shortage of affordable housing, and issues related to mental health and addiction. However, this crisis is exacerbated by the volatile oil industry. Many Edmonton residents, once part of a thriving workforce, have lost their jobs and no longer have access to affordable housing. Indigenous people, who represent a disproportionate percentage of the homeless population, despite being a small part of the city's overall population, are especially affected. The harsh winters in Edmonton not only pose health risks, but also worsen homelessness. While the city has taken steps, such as expanding shelter capacity and developing supportive housing programs, the homelessness crisis continues to grow, reflecting the difficulty in meeting the demand for affordable housing. With severe cold and a lack of shelter, Edmonton is becoming a place that cannot be ignored when it comes to homelessness. Number 4. Calgary, Alberta. Calgary, known as a symbol of prosperity in Canada, with its skyscrapers and wealth from the oil industry, now faces an increasingly severe homelessness crisis. As the oil industry falters and thousands lose their jobs, many are forced to face homelessness. This crisis is not just a result of changes in the economy, but also due to a shortage of affordable housing options. While the city thrives with upscale apartment projects and luxury housing developments, affordable housing projects have not been given the same level of attention. As a result, many people who were once part of the middle class now struggle to survive, unable to keep up with rising rental prices and high living costs. Calgary's cold winters add further burden to the homeless, with temperatures often dropping below 20 degrees Celsius. Those unable to find safe shelter face the dangers of frostbite, hypothermia, and even death. Although Calgary has undertaken some initiatives to address this issue, from building supportive housing for the homeless to providing mental health services, homelessness in Calgary has not been fully resolved. For those who are less fortunate, the city's prosperity feels like a distant dream as they continue their relentless struggle to secure a roof over their heads. Number 3. Montreal, Quebec. Montreal, with its European charm, vibrant arts community, and rich history, is one of Canada's most famous cities. Known for its festivals, cafes, and multicultural neighborhoods, it attracts tourists and new residents from all over. However, in recent years, Montreal has faced a significant homelessness crisis, especially as the issue becomes more visible in the heart of the city. Although the cost of living in Montreal is relatively lower than in major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, homelessness is still steadily rising, and the problem is visible on the city streets. The main cause lies in a combination of complex factors. While housing prices in Montreal seem affordable compared to other cities, the actual supply of affordable housing is extremely limited. Language barriers for immigrants and a lack of support services also add to the difficulty for those in need, especially as access to social networks and support systems becomes harder than ever. Quebec winters, known for their harshness, make living on Montreal's streets dangerous. Snowstorms and sub-zero temperatures are just some of the factors that make life for the homeless in Montreal incredibly harsh. While the city does have shelters, they are often overcrowded, forcing homeless people to seek warmth in subway stations or narrow doorways to escape the cold. Although Montreal has launched initiatives to address this issue, such as expanding affordable housing projects and support services, the pace of development has not kept up with demand. Montreal's homelessness crisis serves as a clear reminder that even cities with relatively low living costs can become out of reach for those on the margins of society. With rising demand and limited resources, Montreal faces significant challenges in helping its most vulnerable citizens. Number 2. Toronto, Ontario. Toronto, Canada's largest and most diverse city, is known for its economic opportunities, thriving development, and iconic skyline. However, it is also facing one of the most severe homelessness crises in the country. As housing costs soar to unimaginable heights, more and more people are falling into homelessness, forced to live on the streets of a city they no longer feel they belong to. Toronto's housing market has become extraordinarily expensive, with rental prices continuing to skyrocket. Even those with jobs, known as the working homeless, are struggling to afford the high cost of living. Additionally, mental health and addiction issues are rising within the homeless community, but the city's support system is still not strong enough to tackle these challenges. Toronto's shelter system and support services are often overwhelmed, resulting in long waiting lists and many people living in makeshift tent cities in public parks. The contrast between the city's prosperity and the homelessness crisis is a stark example of the inequality that Toronto faces. Although the city boasts growth and opportunity, For many residents, particularly those with low incomes, it is becoming a place that is no longer livable. Number 1. Vancouver, British Columbia. Vancouver, known for its majestic mountains, stunning Pacific coastline, and vibrant culture, is also grappling with one of the most severe homelessness crises in Canada. While many think of Vancouver as a city worth living in, the reality is that it is increasingly becoming out of reach for its most vulnerable residents. Vancouver's housing market has pushed rental prices to extreme highs, with the cost of a one-bedroom apartment comparable to cities like New York and San Francisco. The downtown East Side, one of the city's oldest neighborhoods, has become the epicenter of the homelessness crisis. Makeshift tent cities, shelters, and supportive housing initiatives are concentrated in this area, highlighting the divide between wealth and poverty in Vancouver. Despite efforts from the city government to address homelessness through temporary shelters and supportive housing projects, the situation remains unchanged. The homelessness crisis in Vancouver is a painful reminder of the rising inequality in the city. Despite its beauty and prosperity, Vancouver is increasingly becoming an impossible place to live for low-income individuals with skyrocketing rental prices and a shortage of affordable housing options. This crisis reflects a harsh reality that the city needs to do much more to protect its vulnerable residents and provide them with the opportunity for a real home rather than struggling in makeshift shelters.